Welcome to the Yoga Health Coaching Podcast, a global collaborative conversation about our collective evolution.
We're into the habits for you and the rest of humanity to thrive. You'll hear what's working and what's not on our journeys as coaches, guiding peeps into the habits of thrive. Based on Ayurveda, based on the wisdom of yogis and yoginis, intertwined with the reality of modern life.
Hey everyone, it's Kate Stillman with Yoga Healer, and I'm here with Jen Allen, and we're doing a coaching gym on sleep and fatigue, even when you know the body thrive habits and all that. So yeah, go ahead, Jen, and just describe what's going on.
Yeah, so I am not sleeping and it's troubling me.
Are you not falling asleep or staying asleep?
I'm not staying asleep.
Okay, so you fall asleep.
Mm-hmm. Fall asleep fine. I don't have a clock in my bedroom, so I don't know how long it takes, but not that long, 5 minutes or less, I'm sure. I just kind of get settled in and go to sleep, right? That's not a big deal. But staying asleep seems to be the problem.
Okay. And when do you wake up?
Well, again, I don't have a clock, but I did bring an old iPhone in that doesn't have internet, just so I could look at the clock because I don't want that internet in my bedroom because, it's just tempting. So anyway, that's what I have in there right now. And sometimes I'll wake up like an hour later. Sometimes it's an hour and a half. So it's really not that far into the game. Okay. I thought it was much longer until I looked at, and maybe it was, I don't know. But right now it's an hour and a half in, 2 hours in maybe. And then I'm waking up like all night. Then the rest of the night is like that.
So on and off, and like light phases of sleep after that?
I don't know. Sometimes I wake up out of a dream. So I don't know. Like sometimes, yeah, I don't know. Obviously I have not had like good sleep for like a week. I'm like, okay, I'm at my max. Like one night or 2 nights, I'm like, it's fine. Like 4 or 5 days later, I'm like, okay, it's not fine. So yeah, it's, I guess it's light sleep. I don't know. It's interrupted sleep.
Yeah. And then in the morning, are you waking up and getting out of bed, or is it just like you've been awake for a while laying in bed and then you get up?
Oh, no, I wake up to an alarm going off that I hit several times on snooze because I'm tired because I haven't slept all night. I set an alarm to get up.
Okay. Do you need to?
Let me think about that. Do I really need to? I'm not sure what time I would wake up if I didn't. And it could be like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. I don't know what time I would get up if I didn't set an alarm. Okay. But not enough time to give me any time to myself, which is pretty important to me. Mm-hmm. So I set an alarm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when did your sleep issues start?
Like 20 years ago.
And what was the trigger?
Yeah.
Was it motherhood or?
Yeah, having a kid. Yeah, having a kid.
Okay. And on a scale of like 1 to 10, how exhausted are you, with 10 being super energized and well rested and in 1 being like dragging yourself around?
Overall, like a 5, but like today, like 2. Mm-hmm. I mean, today is like, it's hitting me pretty hard. But typically, I just go about my business, I just go through it. But I know I'm not, living a life sometimes I'm tired. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, oh, I'm tired. Mm-hmm. I've been up for like 2 hours or 2.5 hours. I'm like, oh, I'm tired now. Mm-hmm. So I would say as an overall, maybe 5 or 6.
Yeah. And then how much caffeine do you use?
Currently, not much. I drink a coffee substitute, but I do sprinkle in like just a little, maybe like 1/4 teaspoon of coffee, like real coffee in there, because I like the smell and taste. And that's pretty much it. Okay. I mean, so every once in a while I'll have, I don't even know who makes it, but there's like this espresso thing that's with almond milk. Sometimes I have that, but it's not regular, but it is reoccurring. Like I do enjoy that sometimes.
Okay. And is there any it doesn't sound like there's enough. People process caffeine really differently.
Yeah.
It's not like you're having caffeine in the afternoon.
No, God, no, I wouldn't know. Like I used to, but no, I know caffeine in the afternoon, no caffeine after, 10 o'clock in the morning. It kind of depends. So if I do have some, it's early in the morning.
And you're physically active, so your body's tired.
Yeah. I mean, I work out, I do yoga, I walk, as best I can. I'm not as active as I once was due to my foot issue, as we've talked about before, but I mean, there's still daily activity.
Yeah. All right. So the way that I coach is like, if this were me, what would I do? Right.
Yeah. Great.
So, and how I answer questions over time is really different based on what I'm experimenting with and learning and trying. So what I've noticed from the last few months of experimenting with urine therapy is that there's definitely something to the deeper sleep and getting out of the cortisol cycle. Mm-hmm. Right. Because what happens right now is your cortisol level is spiking at probably, what time are you going to bed? Like 9:30, 10?
Yeah. Yes. 9 is really pretty solid in the winter. With lighter daylight hours. 9:30 to 10 can happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So your cortisol is waking you up at the wrong time. And then it's not waking you up at the right time.
Right.
Right. Because that's why people wake up in the morning and all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's getting light. And it's like, or they feel it in the nocturnal inner body clock as it goes from darkness to light. And there's like that, oh, okay, cortisol spikes. Okay, wake up, go do something. But you're missing the deeper sleep, the oxytocin, the serotonin, the melatonin imbalance. And so like from my work with Dr. Claudia Welch and Healthier Hormones, she talked a lot about how if the body's producing stress hormones like cortisol in excess, it's doing it at the expense of sex hormones, which are the regenerative hormones of oxytocin and serotonin and melatonin. And so over time, what happens is you're in fight or flight or freeze response as the operating system for your nervous system. And then that creates its own feedback loop. Like the way that our Ayurveda explains feedback loops is like increases like, and the opposites reduce each other. So then the question is like, well, what's the easiest way to reset hormonal balance, right? Like how the endocrine system's working. And there are herbs and plants and drugs that do that, right? And even like taking melatonin is one of them. But the problem is, it's easy to get the wrong amount, and then it's not endogenous, it's exogenous, meaning you're putting something from outside the body into the body. So it's hard to get it right without side effects. So often people find with like melatonin, they start taking it, then it works for a little bit and then it doesn't work. Or then it's hard to get up in the morning because they kind of feel a little hungover from it and all of that. So again, I've got to just go straight up from my experience, which is, whoa, these things like these hormones are NRP. There seems to be something with the feedback loop. Even though, and I haven't gotten to the science behind it because it seems like ingesting it wouldn't work because the body would break the hormones down with the gastric juices, with like the hydrochloric acid and all that. For some reason it works. I don't know why. Maybe sublingually it works where you're getting absorption under the tongue. Maybe it works in skin massage. Maybe it works if you do enemas or foot baths where you're pulling it straight in through the bigger pores in your feet. I noticed though, there's something to drinking it. And again, I don't know scientifically yet why it seems like the hormones upcycle from drinking it, but it does. It does seem like that is what is happening. So I would start with all of that and just see what happens. See if you can get a hormonal reset and start to change the balance from stress hormone production into sex hormone production.
Okay.
In Claudia's book, Balance Your Hormones, Balance Your Life, there's probably some really good gems in there.
I do have that book.
So yeah, I'd pull that down. I would look into the sleep issues and just make sure you understand the cortisol cycle and what's going on with that. And then one thing I learned from coaching with Claudia for the years that we ran Healthier Hormones was, she was just like, if you can get sleep, get it. Like always get sleep. So I would stop with the alarm and just if your body's in a deep sleep cycle, even though it's in, Ayurvedically speaking, it's in like kapha time of day when you're not supposed to be asleep, then you'll feel like you're behind the rest of the day, but you'll at least have made more sex hormones and less stress hormones. So it can set yourself up for sleeping better. And again, it's not a good long term. Like you don't want to be in that cycle for the long term. You do want to be able to wake up early, get on and have your practices and get on with the day. But I would say like, well, let's see if you can recover your sleep cycle and then have that happen more naturally.
Okay. Yeah, I sometimes I do not set an alarm, and it seems like 6:30 to 7 is maybe more of a when I get up.
Okay, so I would do that. And then I would change your schedule so that you can have time for practices and whatnot at other times, or just condense those times so that you have little movement breaks or throughout the day, resets.
Yeah.
And when you're not in cortisol, the thing about cortisol, and I've been there, I've been in adrenaline addiction. I can speak from the voice of adrenaline addiction as good as the next person. You don't really know how deep you're in it when you're in it, one, and you don't know how much other work you're making for yourself because you're in a lower operating system. It's a lower order operating system for the mind, most importantly. And so then the mind generates more fear, worry, anxiety, and honestly more work because you're not thinking as clearly and it's rushed.
Yeah.
It's a rushed vibration, right? Because it's like, there's a bear, I gotta go. Like there's things to do. And it's getting out of that. And that's where that oxytocin and serotonin, those like, oh, here, do you want to be the serotonin example? So like, oh.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then that feeling is life is good. Jordan Peterson has it in his 12 Rules of Life, his first book. He's like, if a cat stops and lets you pet it, pet the cat. It's like, what, and it's kind of that thing. It's like when you're in the flow of easeful living, opportunities to dive deeper into easeful living occur. That then upcycles sex hormones, which, are great. These are the regenerative hormones that reset the rest of the physiology and run the organs. Hey, this is Kate with Yoga Healer, and our P workshop has become world famous. You can watch it at yogahealer.com/PEE. If you've been curious about all this talk we're having on urine therapy, I really get into so much from what every 4-year-old should know about their pee to the history of urine therapy as medicine to why it seems to work, all different sorts of animal pee humans have used medicinally over time, and how we're actually turning pee into pharmaceutical drugs. So it's all in there, as well as like how to start and where to go from it. If you have been interested in this conversation, go to yogahealer.com/PEE and watch the workshop now.
Yeah. I feel like there's probably a huger package here. Like, I don't know that much about hormones. I mean, I know the very bare minimum, but I mean, if I've had a complete hysterectomy, there are some hormones that are not being made. If I have like burn out my adrenals, there are some hormones that are not being made. I know like the bare minimum. I don't know all of the details about hormones, but
that's upcycling, right? So that's where like giving your body the best chance possible to get more information about what it needs to get out of food so it can make what it needs to make.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I would go with that. There's a level of efficiency. It's unlike anything I've experienced from it, and how it's affected my sleep it's amazing. It's like, I don't think about getting deep sleep anymore. I just wake up and I'm like, where was I? That was really good again.
Yeah. Well, good. Because that is not happening here.
But then you can add things to it. And this is where like urine therapy plus herbal therapy can be helpful. Like herbs like, I don't know if it's still endangered. Jatamansi, Jatamansi, is a very high vibrational plant from India. It smells like expensive dirt. It's really dark brown. Banyan Botanicals used to carry it. If not, they have another sleep formula. But that's where when you're taking herbs, but you're upcycling them, because plant medicine and vitamins, like it ends up in your pee. It ends up in your pee. When you upcycle it, your body starts to catch on to what it's absorbing.
Yeah, I do have a question about that. If you're on like medications, should you do that? Is that bad to, be on medication and then drink your urine? Like, what's the deal with that?
Yeah. I mean,
what you know about it so far.
Yeah. I've heard a number of people talk about it that, like, I was listening to this one woman today who's, she's doing her PhD in urine therapy, and she, actually I'm interviewing her later today. And she's worked a lot with people on medications. I'm not sure if she's also no, she's not also an MD. She's a registered nutrition. She's like a nurse and a nutritionist, and has 5 degrees that are not MD, but are in the allopathic world of nursing and care and nutrition. And so she's worked a lot with people on like very heavy medications. And she helps them build their diet and build their microbiome and use urine therapy and then start to reduce their medications. So she's the one that, because it's interesting, like Megan and I were talking about, Megan McDonald and I were talking about this the other day, how like you hear all these things of like, don't mix urine therapy with medication. And then you hear of all the people that were like, I used to be on medications and then I started urine therapy. And it's like, well, what happened there? And usually they start and then they don't need the medication.
Yeah.
Right. And so that seems to be the direction that it goes. Of course, for anyone, like what you want to do is talk to your doctor about what you're doing, who's prescribing the medication, and see what they actually know about urine therapy. There are a few doctors that know a lot, but most don't know anything. And then, know a lot more about your medications as well. It's like, what am I putting in? From what I can tell, you upcycle everything, so your body would need less. So often people will go to like a reduction in the quantity of the medications.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I would start with enemas, and I would do them after your bowel movement and just do an enema and see if your body can keep in some of the liquid, even just a couple ounces a day. I would start aging your urine so that it gets more potent. I would start to drink it, even if it's like, a shot glass here, a shot glass there. Plug your nose till you get used to it. And then soon you'll start to experience the feedback. Because it's kind of like in yoga. I mean, you're a yoga teacher, so you know what it's like if someone's, walking in and they're 30, 40 pounds overweight. They maybe haven't done much yoga, even if they've exercised quite a bit. So they're tight and it's hard. Like it all kind of hurts in the beginning, where it's like, it's hard to sit. It's hard to sit and chant in the beginning. If chanting's part of the yoga class, hard to sit, period, on the floor. Right. And then it's hard to be on your hands and your knees, because that's weird. And that seems to be part of most beginner yoga classes, is at some point you're on your hands and your knees, and you haven't done that since you were 5 or when you were trained into a chair. Or then you're into downward dog. And then, people are asking you to weight bear, like hold your own weight, sometimes even upside down and like a handstand. And all this seems crazy. Right. And they're like, no, like humans sit up, they sit in chairs, they stand and they sleep. They have those positions. And like you go to yoga class and it's like, oh no, there's a lot more going on. It's a lot more. And it's hard. Like I remember that. I remember, my first few years of yoga of just being like, oh my gosh, like things are tight and shut down. And the body has the fascia is just hard, desiccated connective tissue holding my body in a pattern. And I had to breathe and learn how to breathe and learn how to sit and learn how to soften. And then the yoga changes you, and then the yoga's easy. And then the yoga's easy. And then you want to do the yoga and you're like, how do people live without this? How do people not go upside down? How do they not go on their hands and knees and wake up their spine and wake up their shoulders and their hip joints? And all the things that I think for yoga teachers are just like, oh yeah. And we forget what it was like at the beginning, or we forget what it's like to be a beginner. Some yoga teachers grow up with parents doing yoga, so they never were that way. My child's one of those, right? There's yoga at home, there's meditation at home. She goes to a gym, she stretches at the gym. Like she never had that level of disconnect. But for someone that's coming in, and with urine therapy, often we have generations of disconnect. I'm guessing for most people, we have about 2,000 years of disconnect in our familial ancestral pattern for most people on the planet today. Not everyone, like Africa's way ahead, right? Because the tribes were using it. Native Americans were ahead, but we killed their culture. But it's there. It's there in everyone's ancestry. And when you're reconnecting those dots in the beginning, there's aversion. And it's aversion to that which can help you, and it's like right there, 5 times a day, 10 times a day. It's like right there. It's free, right? But we've been... Again, it's like fascia. There's these disconnects at our level of consciousness and even at the level of like what's in the urine. But as you use it, it changes. It changes. And so the actual, like what's in it changes. And as you're changing, you'll start to recover your hormonal balance. Like it's pretty textbook in urine therapy to recover hormonal balance. I mean, if you think about it, right? It's why we use Premarin in hormone replacement therapy. We use horse, mare's urine in HRT. So yeah, you can buy it in a drug. You can get bioidentical hormones. There's like a lot of ways that we can do this, but that none of them are going to work as good as yours. Even if yours is off in the beginning, the body will start to get, oh, we're not producing enough of this. Oh, wait, what's going on here?
Yeah. Well, I fear if I don't get my sleep like I won't be doing anything. I will not be doing my Dharma. I will not be doing my work because I'm too tired to do it.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with it.
And it gets worse. I mean, I've worked a lot with chronic fatigue and it gets worse, right? And people go on disability and yeah. And that's the problem with the feedback loop. That's part of this. It's a big problem with adrenaline addiction is by the time it gets really, really bad, it's hard to get out of. So where you're at is it's bad enough. Might as well pee up your butt.
Well, might as well try something. I feel like I've tried a lot of things. So, it's the next thing in the long list of things. So,
and then get in some, Google urine therapy on Facebook, get in some urine therapy forums where people are doing stuff and, are experimenting, and people have done it for years. And there's a mighty network on it as well that you can Google. There's people that maybe are part of something that you haven't been exposed to. And when you've tried everything, you also know some things work some of the time. And when you combine those, and this is what I keep finding with urine therapy is when you combine those things with this, that works better. Someone was joking on the Body Thrive forum. I think someone made a cup of herbal tea. It looked like if it could potentially be herb steeped in urine. And someone was like, oh, I thought that was herb steeped in urine. And then of course, half of us who are herbalists are like, of course you would do that because it's fermenting. So it's like any fermented food, you're going to get more pre-digestion it's the phytonutrients, right? You're going to be able to get a pre-digested phytonutrient. So it's going to be more bioavailable to your cells. So it's where it goes, it's everything you've done works. This is just going to add a level of integration where it brings things into integrity. So that's what I would do. I mean, the hardcore people would tell you to urine fast, just loop. Just do that for a week and see if you can get a massive reset. So that's where it goes in terms of how fast, how deep, how hard, how quick do you want to get to the other side of it? But there's, listen to your body, start where you are, hold the options open and see how deep you end up surrendering into it. That's what I would do.
All right.
You can also do like a urine pack on your forehead, which might help. You've got the third eye. I mean, in Ayurveda practitioner training, they'll often teach you to do that with oil. And you can start with oil, like sesame oil on a, or if you're hot, or coconut oil that's melted on a rag or clean cloth on your forehead before you're going to sleep, and just help shut down your nervous system.
Yeah, I do that with an eye pillow. I tried that with an eye pillow a lot. So
no, this is different. That's not it's the oil. It's either the oil or the urine, where you're looking for something to penetrate into the skin, not just the eye bag. Okay. And then with urine therapy, don't use it after 3 or 4 p.m. It'll be too stimulating.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I don't need any more stimulation probably.
Yeah.
All right. Well, stay tuned. We'll see. Okay. Thank you much.
Bye.
Hey, this is Kate Stillman, and thanks for listening to the Yoga Health Coaching Podcast. This is our podcast for Body Thrive coaches and yoga health coaches around the world to learn from each other, to learn from me, to connect and to spread the deep awareness of how to be a better coach, how to lead dynamic groups, and how to get people to results through the habits of yogis. If you like listening and you're not yet in our community, you might go over to our free training at yogahealthcoaching.com/masterclass and sign up for our masterclass that explains to you a bit about this business model that's based on dynamic groups. It's based on getting people to healthier lives faster, to better results in their health and wellness and in their daily thrive faster through understanding the habits of yogis, to automating them and living them in their lives. So that's at yogahealthcoaching.com/masterclass. And in that, it really breaks down the, how to make it work for you if you want to be a coach. And if you're already a yoga health coach, we love you so much. And we'll see you on the next live call. Namaste and have a great day.